We're gonna discuss Moon in Sag, the Archer, Mutable Fire, the final of our Fire Moon series.
And
You can come out of the halo.
the halo strong. So Sag Moon is it's mutable fire. So that's going to be that's usually very difficult in Mercury. In Moon, I think it gives a lot of vision
Totally.
and very expressive vision. A lot of painters.
It's like a wildfire, Mutable Fire.
You think so?
Yeah, there's like a contagious energy.
You're
to
right,
it.
because it's not as strong as the other fires.
It's dispersive fire energy, and it's very forward oriented. The Archer arching his bow like to the horizon, to the next like uncharted thing.
Good focus, yeah. Good vision, focus.
Imagination.
Very keen sense, perception, and sense of what is around.
Curious.
Not very reflective, almost like a rash, quick fire, almost in the sense of Aries, but a little different in terms of, as you were saying, what kind of fire it spreads. I love the vision of Sag in the sense that you see with the sun and you see with the moon the ability to express colors and expression and painting. A lot of painters, right? With Sag Moon, we talked about Picasso.
Picasso like was cool and embodies Sag to me as like a synthesizer energy. Sag takes information from all over and like will synthesize, like it's that jack of all trades energy, but then they find the like way to bridge it. And Pablo Picasso was known for his diverse painting styles, inventing his own styles, and then drawing from like neoclassical painting, bringing in cubism. He had his like blue period. So it's very eclectic. I feel like Sagittarius is known for their eclecticism. Is that a word? Eclecticism?
Yeah, for sure.
And he has a quote I really like, which is anything you can imagine is real.
Oh, I was thinking of a different quote. Well, it's not coming to mind, but there's another quote he has too, but that's a nice one. I did get a chance to visit Madrid and see Guernica, like the huge,
nice.
all the small ones too, and then the huge version of it. That was really nice. Another one's Van Gogh, and Van Gogh's very specialist for his.
Was he a Sag Moon?
Yeah, Sag Moon as well.
Interesting.
Yeah. And,
very visionary.
Yeah, very expressionist, visionary pieces Van Gogh had. The color, there's something about, I think, the ability to express color in all its variations with the Sag Moon or with Sag energy just in general.
I do know a few Sag painters. I paint too. I'm a Sag. It is a thing I have noticed. What other example? I had another example of Sag Moon. Oh, Sag is very idealistic. So in terms of like, I feel like they can always see the cup half full. I think with the moon being our emotions, how we take care of ourselves, I feel like there's a lot of resilience and optimism with the Sag Moon. The ability to like maybe bounce back or to like keep the eye on the vision, keep the eye on the imagination. Have you had any close relations with people with Sag Moon? Can you speak more to the emotional nature?
The emotional nature, yeah, I have. And the emotional nature is such that there's a very expressive, very uplifting vision that these people carry forward in life. And what comes as a challenge to them is the lack of reflection. Sometimes there's not a clear sense of calm where they can actually find a space to seriously reflect on matters that are happening.
It's kind of just charting
forward, yeah. And so I remember like even like specific incidents in my life where I would like talk to a Sag Moon and warn them like, hey, you might want to not go in this direction. You might want to not impulsively just continue to drive your energy. It's not working.
Yeah.
So why don't you pause and consider a different tack?
Oh, I think to add to that, I'm a Sag sun, so I can speak a little. I think one of the shadows in that optimism is what you're saying, where things can almost be brushed off, or it's like, oh, that positive, it could almost be like a deflection, like a positivity of, oh, everything's okay, or a facade
Yeah.
even of like having to be optimistic, having to be idealistic, and like maybe not reflecting in some of the heavier things, or it's kind of brushing it off, pushing it under the rug.
Not wanting to deal with it.
Right.
Okay, and so that's the thing with Sag energy is it's very difficult for Sages to want to process the dark and negative things. So what'll happen is the elephant will be under the rug in the middle of the living room because it's very hard to deal with those matters.
And
so
look at Van Gogh, what he ultimately
right. There's a tendency to build.
Did he kill himself? He cut his ear off.
That's a good question. I don't.
He had like
I don't
a break
remember.
with the ear, but I think he might have committed suicide.
I mean, I can't. I don't remember. I don't know.
It's the shadow of Sag.
The shadow energy is definitely like an inability to process the dark side. Not an inability, but
avoidance
an
of
avoidance
the
of the dark side.
Because it's like, well, let's just focus on what's possible. And I think that's what's inspiring about Sag, though. Like the common thread of all the well-known people I looked at with the Sag Moon is like they have all these quotes about like the imagination. Like there's all these inventors, like Thomas Edison.
The visionary capacities, yeah.
Yeah, Thomas Edison had a Sagittarius moon, and not only did he invent, but he was like involved in mining and military weapons and communication and movies. Like he had that kind of jack of all trades, like dabbled, like a finger in each pot kind of thing.
It's interesting because you're bringing up the polarity with Gemini.
Totally. It's reflected in its mirror.
Yeah.
Also Albert Einstein, his famous quote, imagination is more important than knowledge. He was a Sagittarius moon, and I think a lot of them have a self-taught ability too. Like they can kind of have this savant because they're tapping into, if you think of Sag as like the galactic center, they are tapping in, I think, to some consciousness.
That's well put. And I've seen that too. I've seen Sages that are maybe not so mature in certain aspects of their life, but their painting might just be like visionary level because all that energy goes into expression.
Yeah, Einstein, he taught himself algebra and geometry in like a summer or something. I think he had formal education as well, but I think a lot of the Sag moons are very like independent in the way that they can just be their own teachers. Sag is a teaching energy. It's Jupiter ruled.
Yes, that would make sense then with what you said about learning things very quickly and almost fully, right? But Sag energy is an energy that definitely builds, and then kind of explodes its vision across the screen of humanity in its expression.
Yeah. There can be like maybe even an obsessive nature with how it's a Sag moon because of the excess associated with Jupiter. So perhaps they can go so devoted into what they're honing in on, their creative craft, their vision, their ideal. They can maybe get obsessed with it.
Yeah, we were talking about that, and it's definitely a feature of all the fire that there can be an attachment to the continuing to burn even unhealthily. Keeping the fire stoked,
You're just balancing with replenishing activities.
Yeah, and then we were talking about that with water for Aries and not drying out, which is the issue with the fire moon signs. So making sure that you're well, that you have enough water, aloe vera, things that are very healing and helping all the drying qualities that can happen, especially if a fire moon burns themselves out.
I think a commonality between the Sag and Aries moon is the truth, maybe breaker, silence breaker, truth seeker archetype to them, where the idealism is intertwined with devoting to what is truth with a capital T. And that could be their art form or a religious movement or just a philosophy way of
Yeah,
life.
usually a system is very at some point in their life they usually make a shift, right? Either the suns or the moons,
Yeah.
and it can be very healing for them to have some kind of system where they can help balance their vision, help structure their vision.
A lot of, at least Sag suns, I found it interesting. There are a lot of like dictators who have Sag sun. I don't know if Moon is the same, but
You have to analyze and see what the moon.
yeah, I do remember because I'm a Sag sun. I remember doing that research, and I found that interesting because I do think of Sag as like a pretty pure energy, but I guess the shadow is like dogmatism. Of like, this is the right philosophy. This is the message. That's the truth.
This
And
is
like,
what it is. Yeah, no interpretation. This is just like
the lack of reflection, you were saying.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I mean, with fire and especially with the Sag moon, I mean, the fire wants to burn. It's really hard to calm and stoke the fire. You know what I mean? And then let it burn
Mutable
again when it's
fire,
ready.
especially.
Yeah, it is
Mutable
fire.
fire wants to spread.
It's a contagion
Jupiter.
almost. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? It's the mutability. Yeah. It's not as strong as fixed fire or cardinal fire being mutable. And so, in that sense, they want an enduring vision. And I guess that can be the issue, is not knowing when to stop and pause.
Right. And they say like the mutable fire Sag does well with fixed energy because it partners well with something that will stabilize it. Like you said, it won't, so it doesn't just burn out. I think that's where a Sag moon paired with some fixed energy could ground some of the visions.
Maybe some air too, so I could breathe a little.
Do you have any thoughts on the moon when someone has when someone has the moon in Sag?
The moon in Sag, I would say the mother of a moon in Sag, I'd say would be someone who's very, I would think that'd be a mother who's very excitable, is into adventures, is into journeys, is into philosophy. She might study a lot, love information, love to study different things, and can expose all that to her child. You know what I mean? And maybe even inspire their child, along those lines. As with any fire, moon or mother, it's not always consistent. So the motherhood will, or the mothering won't necessarily be consistent. There'll be different periods.
Maybe the mother was even like traveling a lot or teaching,
Sure.
a teacher.
Sure. Traveling a lot, or it could be one extreme to the next,
Moves the family around a lot, either through their profession or just restless nature.
That's common, yeah.
But I would think it can bring a lot of kind of sage energy to the child. Like someone with a child with a Sag moon maybe has a lot of like wisdom in them already, or natural curiosity that should be supported.
Yeah, I would say so. From what I'm thinking in my mind and reflection of people I know who have that moon. Very interested in literature, very interested in art, very interested in philosophy. Yeah, all those things.
And needs to, like, I think experientially dabble in each of them maybe before they find their what resonates for them as like this is, and it will probably be a synthesis, as we saw with a lot of the notable Sag moons. They are amazing at just pulling from different sources or channels and creating their own way, like through that blending.
Another example I think is Osho.
It was like, I think he had like double Sag.
Yeah, I think he was double Sag.
I don't know, was it his moon in Sag or Leo? Double check. I know he was a Sag sun.
I think he was Sag moon too, but I could be wrong. But definitely a visionary, definitely created his own way. His fleet of Mercedes in Oregon.
Oh yeah, there's an indulgence. That's the thing I would say to watch out for with the Sag moon.
Yes.
And some of the other mutable moons like Pisces, Pisces also being a Jupiter ruled moon, I would say those two might be the most inclined to addictive tendencies, excess, just even maybe just indulging in very rich foods or sweets or sex, or
so important for those
just
two.
really bringing in balance or awareness around some things that might be unconscious. Like, what do you go towards? Are you going towards that food as like a comfort? That would be my kind of like biggest advice to a Sag Moon: balance.
Yeah, balance is really key because of that Jupiter influence, which can be the one extreme or the other.
Let's see. So Bhagwan, he actually was a Cap moon.
Oh, really?
His sun though is Sag, and I know. Well, he had a stellium in Sag actually. He had a preponderance of Sag energy. He had like at least 4 planets in Sag. I looked at his chart once. But yeah, it's not uncommon to see that energy in spiritual leaders or even like collectives, people who are in charge of collectives, because they have that like inspiring, similar to Leo, like that inspiration that attracts people. And they're so sure of it, they're sure of their philosophy that it's like people can't help but jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah, it catches fire all around them. All right, anyone else you can think of? Any other tidbits for Moon and Sag?
No, I think that's it. We will be addressing all 12 of the moon signs, and feel free if there's a topic that you want us to address, or you have comments, questions, concerns about what we shared, you can always comment below.
All right, thanks so much, you guys.